I'm betting Sony wishes they had the power to see the future just like Madam Web, because if they did, it's possible they might not have made this movie. I'm Adam.
And I'm Emily.
And this is Does It Hold Up? And here's our review of the newest Sony Spider-Verse movie, Madam Web. This is the story of Cassie Webb. Pun names, they're great. And she gets superpowers from being born by a woman who was bitten by a spider, but somehow her powers are she can see multiple variations of the future. I don't know.
But that doesn't start until she has a near-death experience.
Yeah, something about being in water set it off.
You've never been in water before?
She's never showered, and it shows. Madam Web, or Cassie Webb, is played by Dakota Johnson, who is the flattest she's ever been. In fact, compared to this movie, she probably should have won an Oscar for 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. That's how bad her performance is in this movie. She's joined by some other good actresses, or at least they were good.
Normally are good.
Like Sydney Sweeney, who we just checked out in Anyone But You, and a lot of other people have as well, because it's doing really well in theaters. And she was fantastic in that. And in this one, they have her play a nerdy girl. That's all I can say about that character. That's all the movie cared about.
A lot of these characters are very one note. And there's a way to make characters be where the main focus of your character is one thing, but you can still make them a well-rounded human and person. So the fact that every single one of these actors and actresses decided that they're going to take the one note they got probably from the director and went, that's all my character can be.
Yep. And then she was joined by people like Adam Scott and Isabella Merced. And let's just call it what it is. All the performances in this movie are fucking trash. Pardon my language, but holy shit, this is terrible. Every single one of these actresses and actors have been better in other things. I don't know what the hell they were going for in this movie, but top to bottom, every single actor reads it like it's a table read. They literally just have the script in front of them and they're like, now I say spider-related pun. Ha 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 ha. Are you kidding me with this? It was awful. Awful.
Now, the worst offender, in my opinion, was the villain.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
For some reason, I honestly thought they had him, dubbed over because his lips, barely moved. He was not emoting at all, and I was so confused on if he was actually in this movie or if he was in, the foreign version of this movie, and they just kind of, were like, you know what, it's fine. It's fine. He doesn't speak English. It's fine. Just, we'll cover it.
Yeah, you're so right. I literally thought he was being dubbed over because it was that bad of ADR. I don't know what happened on set, but everything he did didn't line up with his mouth movements. It was like watching live action anime, and it was terrible.
It was so bad.
And not only that, just everything he did was just awful. He had no physical presence. His line delivery was... I'm a big Spider-Man fan. You know this. Everybody who knows me knows this.
Clearly.
I love Spider-Man. He's my favorite comic book character of all time. He's the greatest superhero that has ever existed. Fight me. I don't care. This was an embarrassment to this franchise. I would rather watch Morbius 1,000 times over than watch this movie again. Even clips of this movie will probably get my blood boiling. Sony completely misunderstood the character of Madam Web. Nothing they tell you in this movie has anything to do with the actual character. You can lie to yourself and say they were pulling stuff from more of the modern Madam Web, and they were pulling stuff like this. And the character Sydney Sweeney plays in this is Julia Cornwall, but in the comics it's Julia Carpenter. They even just changed the last name for no apparent reason. What do you think Sony was thinking about when they decided this was the movie to make?
Honestly, they were like, we really think women are the way of the future, so we need to make a women-driven movie, but we don't want to be held down by the constraints of, what they've done in the book, so we're going to change little things, and no one wants a superhero movie about an older lady, so let's make her real young.
Sure. But you completely misunderstood the character. That's
Yes.
my biggest problem. I don't care that you wanted to make Madam Web younger. Great. It's an origin story. This movie is set in 2003. So, right around the time that Sony was making Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So, which universe are you currently in? Because now we know that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield do exist within the MCU. They appeared in Spider-Man No Way Home. So this movie being set in 2003 never establishes what part they are in. If they're in the Tobey Maguire universe, he already exists. He's already doing things.
Yeah.
The first movie was from 2002. Why are they shocked by a person who can climb on the wall? If you're doing it the Andrew Garfield movie, well, they're not. I can guarantee you they're not. Because nothing about this movie matches the tone and visual style of the Andrew Garfield stuff. And if you're talking about it's the MCU version, she's going to eventually interact with like Tom Holland or something like that. Well, first of all, Sony, slow your roll a little bit because you're not getting that Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man, interacting with any of your Sonyverse characters. It's not going to happen. But even if you're going to do that, 2003 to what we saw him first in 2016, and he'd been doing it a little bit already. You're telling me in 15 years, 12 years, she's supposed to go from Dakota Johnson to old woman?
I honestly thought it was going to be more in the Venom universe, because Venom is not in the same one as Tom Holland either. So it could be that universe. But
so then they don't have a Spider-Man?
They don't have a Spider-Man.
They just have villains. Just all villains.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sony's entire universe is made up entirely of villains and they don't have a hero.
Yep.
Love it. Well, apparently they're going to have a Spider-Woman now. Well,
multiple.
3 different variations of Spider-Woman, women who have taken up that mantle in the comics. And a little bit of a spoiler alert here. Don't expect to see them in this movie. The trailers make it seem like, hey, look, a bunch of Spider-Woman and they're going to be doing stuff. Nope, just kidding.
In fact, they use pretty much every single shot in the trailers
Yep.
of them in their comic accurate costumes.
So the whole point of this movie is that there's a magical spider that can give you like healing properties and superpowers, and the bad guy has it, and he's trying to kill 3 girls who are going to get powers before they can kill him, because he can also see the future, but he can also climb on walls. He's incredibly fast. He's incredibly strong because he was bitten by this spider. So he's like bad Spider-Man, but can also somehow get glimpses of the future. But then Madam Web can only see the future. She doesn't get any of the other powers.
Well, probably because she wasn't the one who was bit.
It doesn't matter. That's dumb.
It makes very little sense. One other thing that annoys me about this villain, I'm going to harp on the villain a lot because he was absolutely trash, is that he had no other motivation other than I'm evil. Yeah. And I get that that's been a complaint that a lot of people have made about villains recently, is that they're a little bit too likable, a little too understandable. But for this villain to simply just be like, I'm evil, I kill people because I want the spider. Like, he hinted towards him having like a dark past, but it never shows what he was doing.
He was poor.
Now that he had powers.
He was poor in a jungle when he was younger. And
now
that's why
he's
he's evil. And now he's rich. Dude, you got what you wanted. Call it a day. Okay, so the visual style of this movie is also pretty trash. They do some things that are a little bit cool. When Madam Web is using her powers, it's a little bit visually appealing, but it's also hot mess at the same time, where you can't really comprehend what's going on. The CGI is terrible. It's just not a very good looking movie either. It's very flat. It's not well lit at all. It looks like a comic panel. It looks like it's 2D, yet in the worst possible way.
They also did a thing, and I don't know if they meant to do this as like an aesthetic thing, where it doesn't hold focus very well. Like, especially when it flips to a new camera angle, it like would be out of focus and then go into focus. And it's like, I'm not sure if they were trying to do that because of her powers or what, or if they just didn't know what they were doing.
It was just bad filmmakers. Like, let's just call it what it is. It was bad filmmaking 101. S.J. Clarkson, as the director, had no business being behind a camera for this movie. This was so out of league that I'm not sure what they were going for, but it was just bad. The story is convoluted and awful. There's so much that doesn't make any sense. They rush so much of it. It's terribly paced. None of the powers seem to make any sense as we're going throughout this entire movie. They literally make Spider-Man a villain in this. They basically copy Spider-Man and they're like, oh, but he's evil. That's not what people want. Like, make a unique, make a very sinister villain that can match what Madame Web does. The fact that you were like, I don't know, she's just got to fight a dude who can climb on walls is a dumb decision. Like, yeah. It's not even dumb. It's horrendously stupid. And I just don't understand who thought reading this script that was a movie we got to make. Sony has been failing left and right with this Spider-Verse that they're trying to create, that they've been trying to create since Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in 2012.
Yeah.
They keep failing at it. Venom movies are fun. They're ridiculous, they're fun, they're very comic-y, and I like them a lot. Morbius, though, was awful. This movie, the worst movie I've seen this year, and probably going to be the worst movie I see for the whole year. And Kraven the Hunter doesn't look any better.
Yeah, I'm not liking the prospects going forward. They honestly need to hire someone like you who's obsessed with the Spider-Verse to kind of curate and be like, hey, this is what's actually important to this character, and here's a storyline that I think we can translate to movies, because there's certain stories that should not be translated.
Correct. And Madame Web, unfortunately, is not a character I would have made an entire movie about. No. I think she's a very interesting character. She adds a lot to the stories in the comics, but she's somebody you could probably just bring in, give her like a 5 to 10 minute, origin story and call it a day. An entire 2-hour movie, which the movie was entirely way too long. It was rinse and repeat the entire time. Save girls, run away, bad guy finds us. Save girls, run away, bad guy finds us. Go, 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 go. It was just a bad idea, top to bottom. And at the end of the day, you're supposed to be catering to the fans, but also making it approachable for other people who don't know the history. And this was a terrible demonstration of that.
So bad.
Morbius made sense. They had his background, they built up this lore of him, and then they really gave him his powers in the correct sort of way. It wasn't 100% good, but the correct way. This one, they just kind of shoehorn it all together, and it feels completely disconnected from anything else that they've ever made. It's just... literally, there must have been a bunch of cocaine in that room when they decided to greenlight this movie. And luckily, you don't have to stay, because there is no post-credit scene, because I'm sure even Sony went, we know this movie's trash. Nobody's going to stick around. I'm surprised anybody's still in the theaters by the time the credits hit. So don't worry about putting anything. And it's really bad when Dakota Johnson made fun of this movie on SNL before it even came out. She was hosting it. She made jokes about how bad this movie was going to be. Nobody associated with this movie seems to have had a good time making it, and it clearly shows in the final product. You disappointed fans. You disappointed everybody else. Don't know what you were thinking, but you should probably pull this from theaters sooner rather than later so you don't get completely embarrassed with how bad it's going to fail.
I agree.
Should you see this movie? This is an absolute pass for me. You don't have to see it in theaters. Don't watch it at home. Never, ever put this movie on your television screen.
I honestly say you could watch it at home. There's, it's still something. If you turn your brain off, it can be somewhat entertaining, but nope. I can agree with you. You don't have to watch this one.
Yeah. So go ahead and chalk this one up as a skip. Let us know in the comments below what you think about Madame Web if you've already seen it. Were you a fan? Did you think anything they did was good? Or do you agree with us that it was complete and utter garbage? We'll be back later with some more videos, box office roundups, more movie reviews. In the meantime, you can follow us over on Letterboxd to see what movies we are currently watching day to day as we try to complete our 366 movie challenge. One new movie a day for the entire year. You can do that all by clicking the links in the description below. You can also click the video on the screen right now to watch more stuff from us. Until we see you next time, be good to yourself, be kind to others, and as always, keep watching movies.
Bye!